Talking about Thailand seems easy at first glance, doesn't it? After all, there's no shortage of reasons to visit the country. Heavenly beaches with crystal clear waters, palm trees that dance in the wind, and golden temples scattered around vibrant cities like Bangkok and Chiang Mai. The country has captured the imagination of Western tourists with its exotic cuisine, the serenity of Buddhism, and the famous smiles of its people, which have earned it the nickname Land of Smiles. A destination that seems perfect, almost unreal. But the question is it really? In fact, what almost no one tells you is that behind this dreamlike scenery, there is a dark side, almost invisible to those who only see the country through tourist brochures. Prostitution, violence, shocking cases of modern slavery, human trafficking, and a social inequality that tears apart any idea of paradise. Today, Bello Mundo will take you on a journey that shatters illusions and reveals the real Thailand. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Thailand, located on the Indochina Peninsula in the heart of Southeast Asia, looks like a place straight out of a tropical dream. With over 513,000 square kilometers and a population of over 70 million, it occupies a central space in the region, surrounded by countries such as Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia, and Malaysia. The country's geography is a true spectacle of nature. In the north, mountain ranges embrace fertile valleys that have fed communities for centuries. The central plain, cut by the imposing Chao Phraya River, takes its waters all the way to Bangkok before flowing into the Gulf of Thailand. Southern Thailand forms the land bridge linking the mainland to the Malay Peninsula, full of beautiful beaches and tropical islands that have graced magazine covers and inspired Hollywood films. The tropical climate dominates most of the territory, with rainy seasons marked by monsoons and high temperatures most of the year. This exuberant natural setting, combined with a unique culture, has made Thailand a world-famous tourist destination. But as we shall see, not all that glitters here is gold. Number 2. The postcard. When it comes to Thailand, it's almost impossible not to imagine breathtaking scenes. Crystal clear beaches, such as those in Phuket, Koh Samui, and Phi Phi, that look like living paintings. Impressive Buddhist temples, such as Wat Phra Kaew in Bangkok, or the iconic White Temple in Chiang Rai, which seem to emanate an almost tangible spirituality. And of course, the cuisine. Who can resist a pad thai or the explosion of flavors in the spicy tom yum goong soup? The floating markets are also there, with their colorful boats full of fruit and spices, a unique spectacle on the narrow canals. All this is accompanied by the friendliness that has earned the country the nickname of the Land of Smiles. Yes, in Thailand it seems that Oriental exoticism and modernity meet in perfect harmony. In the big cities, giant shopping malls and skyscrapers share space with chaotic streets and vibrant markets. And the Thai economy, driven by tourism, agriculture, and industry, stands out as one of the strongest in Southeast Asia. It's the kind of scenery that makes any visitor believe they're in paradise on Earth. But is that all there is to it? Behind this picture-perfect postcard lies a very different reality, which Thailand tries to hide under the carpet. Social, economic, and political contradictions affect millions of people and reveal a side that rarely appears in photos or travel guides. This is the Thailand that few people know about, and that we're about to unveil, starting with poverty. Number 3. Poverty and social inequality. Thailand may be classified as an upper-middle-income country, but for those who live in the shadows of luxury and modernity, this definition sounds like a bad joke. Despite the relatively developed infrastructure in the big cities, Poverty persists in a frightening way in many regions, especially in the rural areas of the north and northeast, such as Isan. In these villages, life is marked by subsistence farming, poor health, and an education that is often insufficient to open any doors. The contrast is further accentuated by internal migrants, people who leave their impoverished provinces in the hope of finding a better life in the big cities. Without qualifications, they end up underemployed, living in urban slums or in overcrowded housing on the outskirts of Bangkok. Tourism, one of the country's biggest sources of income, hardly benefits them. Most of the profits go straight to the big conglomerates, while these workers remain invisible in the system. And if you think that social inequality is something subtle, just compare the tourist areas with the rest of the country. On the one hand, there are luxurious resorts and high-end experiences where tourists spend fortunes to enjoy paradise. On the other, villages where the economy revolves around small markets, handicrafts, and traditional cultures, with a government structure that is almost non-existent. It's the kind of chasm that starkly shows that beyond the picture-perfect images of temples and paradise beaches, millions of Thais face a harsh reality in which the dream of prosperity seems to be reserved only for those who already have a lot. Number 4. Lack of freedom of expression and the monarchy. Did you know that Thailand has a king? Well, many people don't even know it, and those who do know usually prefer not to comment. The reason? Saying the wrong thing about the monarchy can cost you. Very expensive. We're talking about imprisonment, exile, and, in extreme cases, even more serious consequences. In Thailand, the monarchy is not just symbolic. Although the country has a constitutional monarchy, the king has enormous influence, culturally, socially, and even politically. And criticizing anything about him, the queen, or the royal family is a crime. Yes, a crime. The Thai Penal Code calls it lèse majesté. It sounds like a nice name, but the law is scary. Any comment that seems offensive can get you years in prison. And guess who decides what's offensive? That's right. This environment has created something that goes beyond fear: self-censorship. People simply avoid touching the subject. Journalists, activists, academics, no one is safe. And those who try to challenge this silence almost always end up imprisoned, prosecuted, or forced to flee the country. In recent years, young people and students have started to protest, calling for reforms to the monarchy. They want more transparency and less power for the king. But the responses have been harsh: repression, arrests, and a clear reminder of who is in charge. Meanwhile, the world continues to see Thailand as a free and democratic destination. But is it really? Number 5. Prostitution and sex tourism. Thailand may be known as the land of smiles, but in the shadows of its postcards, there is an industry that everyone knows about, but few discuss openly: sex tourism. Although prostitution is officially banned, neighborhoods like Pat Pong, Nana Plaza, and Soi Cowboy in Bangkok, or the streets of Pattaya, called Thailand's Sin City, make it clear that, in practice, this law is ignored. Neon lights, crowded bars, and massage parlors turn these areas into veritable epicenters of a billion-dollar industry. Go-go bars and the controversial ping-pong shows are symbols of this reality. In these places, dancers perform numbers on their arms so that customers can choose a private company, while others are shocked by the bizarre spectacles of women throwing ping-pong balls or blowing out candles with their vaginal muscles. For tourists, it may seem exotic or even funny, but the truth is that many of these people live under exploitative and inhumane conditions. And it's not just women who are part of this scenario. Ladyboys, known locally as Cathys, trans people or effeminate men, also find prostitution as a way of making a living. Although they are relatively accepted in Thai culture, they face discrimination within the sex industry. Men are also part of this market, with callboys working in neighborhoods geared towards gay men. In fact, if you want to delve deeper into this reality, we have a full video here on the channel that you can't miss. Thailand, the country of sin, reveals the history of prostitution in the country, how homosexuals are included in this context, and the cruel consequences of the industry. Did you know, for example, that some tourists come to Thailand in search of this kind of adventure and end up taking their own lives? And for those who like more intriguing and even sinister stories, have you ever heard of a massage parlor with a happy ending? Do you want to know more about pompoir shows where women use their sexual organs to expel ping pong balls for clients to hit with a paddle? Then don't waste any time in checking it out. Although this reality seems modern, its roots are ancient. During the Vietnam War, American soldiers transformed Thailand into a destination for rest and recreation, consolidating prostitution as part of the local economy. And you know what makes it even sadder? Behind the lights, stories of enticement, debt, and exploitation are commonplace. Young women are lured with promises of work or marriage and end up trapped in networks that keep them working tirelessly to pay off impossible debts. And while laws against prostitution exist on paper, police corruption turns enforcement operations into an excuse to collect bribes, perpetuating the cycle. Number 6. Human trafficking and child exploitation. Another dark fact about Thailand is human trafficking and child exploitation. This devastating practice mainly affects women and children living in extremely vulnerable situations. And don't think it's a small thing. The country is the origin, destination, and transit route for criminal networks operating throughout Southeast Asia. Children from rural villages or neighboring countries such as Myanmar, Cambodia, and Laos are torn from their families and thrown into a cycle of sexual exploitation or forced labor. And you know what's even more revolting? In many cases, it is their own parents or relatives who deliver these children to these networks, desperate for money. Clandestine tourism only feeds this market. Foreign tourists in search of illegal practices find intermediaries who organize schemes to take them to shady, off-the-radar places. It's cruel and unbelievable. The Thai police, together with international organizations, try to take action with raids and rescues that occasionally result in a few arrests. But, unfortunately, these criminal networks seem indestructible. When one is dismantled, another one springs up almost immediately to take its place. The victims of this system carry scars that go far beyond the physical. We're talking about psychological traumas that never go away, stigmas that isolate them from society, and health problems that can last a lifetime. Local NGOs do what they can, offering shelters and professional training, but it's like trying to put out a fire with a glass of water. The problem is much bigger than any individual effort can solve. Number 7. Exploitation of animals for tourist purposes. Another cruel and dark side of Thailand is the exploitation of animals. Unfortunately, the exploitation of animals to entertain tourists is a shocking reality that many prefer to ignore. Photos with tigers, elephant rides, and monkey shows may seem harmless, but they hide cruel practices that destroy the lives of these animals. Let's start with elephants. From the time they are young, many go through the so-called fajan, a brutal process of breaking their spirit in which they are mistreated until they become submissive. After that, they live chained up in tiny spaces without social contact and forced to carry tourists for hours under the scorching sun. The weight of the seat and the constant friction cause injuries, chronic foot diseases, and irreversible damage to the spine. What for the visitor seems like an exotic ride is, for the elephant, a life of suffering. And what about the famous tiger temples? These majestic animals, which should be free, are often sedated to make them docile, allowing tourists to take selfies stroking them. But it doesn't stop there. There are serious allegations of trafficking in cubs and even the use of tiger parts in the illegal trade of exotic products. It's a cycle that mixes cruelty and greed. Monkeys, crocodiles, and other animals don't escape either. Monkeys are forcibly trained to perform tricks and caricature performances, while crocodiles are manipulated in absurd shows where trainers put their heads inside their mouths. All this to entertain an audience that often has no idea what goes on behind the scenes. So the next time someone suggests an animal tour in Thailand, it's worth asking yourself, is the fun worth the price these living beings pay? Number 8. Modern slavery. Few people realize that behind the seafood that reaches tables all over the world, there is a history of modern slavery hidden on the high seas. While sex tourism and human trafficking are better-known problems, exploitation in Thailand's seafood industry is a less visible but equally devastating side. Investigations by renowned newspapers such as The Guardian and NGOs have revealed that many migrant workers, especially from Myanmar and Cambodia, are duped with false promises of employment. They embark in search of an opportunity and end up trapped on fishing boats, sometimes for months or even years. These boats operate in international waters, far from the eyes of the authorities, creating an environment where abuses run wild. The sailors, treated as disposable, face grueling working hours of 18 to 20 hours a day, with no days off. Documents such as passports are confiscated, preventing any attempt to escape. And the pay, often non-existent, with traffickers claiming debts accumulated during recruitment. The conditions on board are terrifying: lack of hygiene, poor food, and constant violence, both physical and psychological. And the horror doesn't stop there. Reports from sailors indicate that, in some cases, those who try to rebel or escape are murdered and thrown overboard. A macabre reminder to the others. This fish, the result of slave labor, supplies global markets, reaching restaurants and large retail chains around the world. Despite the accusations, foreign companies and the Thai government, pressured by international boycotts, have only implemented specific measures. After being included on international blacklists for human rights violations, Thailand passed stricter laws and increased inspections at ports. However, NGOs continue to warn that corruption is a huge obstacle. Traffickers and boat owners know that, with the right contacts or a bribe at the right time, they can circumvent the judicial system and continue operating. Number 9. The drug trafficking corridor. To end this journey through Thailand's darker side, we have to talk about drug trafficking. The country is part of the famous Golden Triangle, a region that includes Myanmar, Laos, and parts of Thai territory. This is one of the largest drug production and distribution centers in the world, especially heroin and methamphetamine, known locally as yaba. The location and borders full of forests and mountains help to hide trafficking, making it almost impossible to stop. Even with seizures by the authorities and actions against the illegal trade, the problem only grows. Criminal groups, both from Thailand and abroad, take advantage of these remote routes and often rely on the help of corruption to keep the business running. Drug laws in Thailand are extremely strict. Users and small-time dealers can be imprisoned for years, and in more serious cases, even sentenced to death. But even so, the big trafficking networks continue to operate, spreading drugs not only throughout the country, but to other parts of Asia and even outside the continent. The impact of this is enormous. Communities are destroyed by drug use, violence increases, and prisons are full of people who often had no other choice. The Golden Triangle, which could be just another region in Asia, has become a symbol of a problem that seems to have no end. And so we come to the end of our journey through Thailand, exploring the side that few people know about. And you, what did you think of it all? Were you surprised to discover how the famous Land of Smiles hides so many contradictions and dark realities? Thank you for joining us on this journey through the hidden side of Thailand. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to leave a like, share it with those who also like to explore surprising stories, and subscribe to the channel. Here at Bello Mundo, there's always something new and unexpected to uncover.